All right, we are live. Welcome to episode 6 of the Goingfor2Live 2-point conversion with the very wonderful Marcus Grant and the very wonderful Bonnie FF. I don't know what FF stands for, Bonnie. What does FF stand for? Fantasy football?
Fantasy football.
Huh. Very wonderful Bonnie from Fantasy Football. And we are going to start. We were going to start and talk about the NCAA, but being as the game is putrid right now, no matter what side you're on, we probably won't be talking about Gonzaga and Baylor because it looks like Baylor is running away with this. But I will talk for just a few minutes about a product that is sponsoring the 2-point conversion. It is Manscaped, and it is about men's grooming habits and hygiene, which I think needs to be paid attention to because, it's always about the women's grooming and, how she looks so pretty. This product is specifically designed for men and their partners, and I personally am a word nerd. You need to go on their website. It's manscaped.com. It is the most interesting combination of words and product that I've ever seen. Like they have the weed whacker and the lawnmower and the crop duster, and these are all products for men to help you be groomed properly. But the most important part probably about Manscaped is that they team with the Testicular Cancer Society to help promote awareness of testicular cancer. Their whole theme is we save the balls. So if you are buying a product for someone that you know or for yourself, you are also helping raise awareness about testicular cancer, which apparently, I did not know this, is the number one cancer in men from like 18 to 35. So we all, even if like Bonnie and I personally wouldn't use the Manscaped products, but we all have fathers or brothers or partners or a good friend who has balls that we probably want to save. So even if you don't use product, you do want to save balls, go on the product, go on there manscaped.com, use my promo code, which is 2 points, TWOPOINTS. You get free shipping and 20% off, and you are saving balls. So I don't know if you can get any better than that. All right. Now we are going to move on to our show. And Bonnie, let's start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Or a lot?
Well, I started playing fantasy football in 1997. A group of my friends who are all darters. I throw darts. I'm a former state champion dart player. But anyway, they were playing fantasy football, and they needed somebody last minute to fill in. I knew nothing about fantasy football. So I entered, and I started out in last place, and I'm a very competitive person. Couldn't stand that. Ended up going from last place and finishing in 5th. So that was my first season. So my very next season, I drafted, in 1998, I drafted Terrell Owens as my first pick, my first overall, and ended up winning the ship. So that's my background in fantasy football. I started writing last year for a site called For Fantasy's Sake. And since then, this year, I've been taken on by Fantasy Pros. So
Nice.
really love it. And Marcus, I love watching you on NFL Fantasy Live. When I was starting out, you guys helped me tremendously to move up and learn about the game. So really big fan of yours.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Who isn't? Who in her right mind isn't? Really quick, Bonnie, how is your friend's dog? The friend who had the dog who had leukemia, how is he doing?
Unfortunately, he passed.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Despite the treatment, he ended up passing. But thank you for asking.
No
Thanks
worries.
for donating, by the way.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, Marcus, everyone knows who you are. Everyone loves you. But you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your son if you want to.
Wow, I didn't really know where to start. Yeah, I just finished my 10th season at the NFL, which is sort of amazing.
Nice.
I have never been at one job this long ever in my life. didn't anticipate doing this as a career. I think I played in my first fantasy football league way back in 1994 as a college freshman. I always tell people, like, when I talk to like the kids and the interns at work, I tell them I use old timey words like telephone and newspaper. Because like when I played in my first league, we had to actually physically call in a lineup and leave a message on the commissioner's answering machine about who we wanted to start. And then, like we'd watch the games on Sunday, and then like on Monday morning we get the LA Times, and we would go through the box score and we would try to like hand calculate how our team potentially did. Our commissioner lived off campus, so like we might get updated stats on like Wednesday, maybe Thursday. It just depended on when he came to campus. Like if he decided to not come to class, we wouldn't know what they would do or what we would be. So that was like my first fantasy league. I spent a long time working in radio, and through a long, complicated series of events, my radio gig dried up. I was urged to apply for some gigs at the NFL. I went on the website to their career section, applied for like 5 or 6 jobs, most of which I wasn't qualified for. Kind of forgot about it because this was 2011 and the lockout was underway, and we weren't sure if there was going to be a football season at all. And then randomly, I got a phone call. I had forgotten about it. I got a phone call from Michael Fabiano, who was the lead fantasy analyst at the NFL, asking me if I wanted to write about football. Or fantasy football, I should say. And I was like, does it pay? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, sure. Because at that point, the alternative was to keep freelance writing and sitting on my couch watching reruns of Law & Order SVU. So I interviewed for the gig, got hired the day the lockout ended. And like I said, I just finished season number 10. So like I said, never thought I'd be here. This was not part of the plan, but it's worked out pretty well.
Worked out well for all of us, I must say, because I love watching you too. I have to ask this. Is there a segment on there that is your favorite that you enjoy doing more than any others? Because I know there's one that I enjoy watching more.
So you're going to say the hype train, right? You're going to say that's the one. That is the one that everybody talks about. I love the hype train because it first off, let me say that it was Adam Rank's brainchild. Like, it is his baby. And I merely am there to try to match his energy, right? Like it's really Rank that sort of power. He is the engine. He is the locomotive that powers the hype train. Like it's him with his rhymes and all that stuff. And I'm just there just trying to like keep the energy going and like pantomime things. Like, but it is the thing that when I meet people who watch the show, it is the first thing everybody brings up. And it's what's funny about it is that when I talk to my dad who watches the show, obviously he's like, that is the thing that's least like you. Like, you are not that person in real life. But for whatever reason, it pops on the show. So I'm glad people have found something to kind of like hold on to there. And it makes me happy.
But that's not your favorite part of it?
I don't know if I really have a favorite part of it. I guess that would probably be it, just because it's so goofy and fun. But also, I guess it's been over a year since we've all been in the same place together, right? Like, we did it this past year from home in our separate spots or whatever, but it just didn't have the same kind of energy. And I think mostly that's what I miss is all of us being together in the same space and kind of just playing off of each other. I would say my favorite moments are the stuff that you guys don't see. It's the stuff off camera. It's the stuff that happens during commercial breaks when we're like just being really goofy and talking about anything other than football. That's the part probably that I like the best about the show, but none of you will ever see that. So,
well, then we'll take
you guys
that.
do outtakes. They should do outtakes sometime, Gladys.
I wasn't gonna used to, and maybe we'll have to figure out something where we like, put the ones that are safe for public, like, on social media. I don't know.
Well, we're fortunate to have Adam Rank on the show with and the person that we had him with, Samantha, is like an introvert, and you could tell that he has a lot of crazy energy. He has a lot of energy that's just out there. It's the greatest thing ever. I was like, oh.
He's
wow.
honestly one of my favorite people, and I have been his personal joke tester for 10 seasons. So like a lot of the material that he uses, that he would use on air, or a lot of things he would do on podcasts. Like, generally speaking, like, we've all heard those jokes because he has said them to us in the office probably multiple times before they make it out into the world.
Well, I'm thankful that you are here now, and we will start with the questions and the discussion. And like I said, on the show sheet, I have got to stop saying so much. Thanks to at Linda Loins, which I pronounced it wrong, for this question. And I never thought of this until I saw it on her Twitter. Who is your favorite fantasy stack? And it can be like wide receiver, or it can be a position. But I also need like names for who you would think potentially coming up will be your favorite fantasy stack. And we'll start with you, Mr. Grant.
I think my favorite one, it's because it's the one that I feel like you can sort of get fairly easily when you're drafting. I say fairly easily, but DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray. Because especially now, it's weird. I feel like Nuke is probably falling to somewhere in like the mid to late second round. But I think, you can get him in like the second round. You can wait probably till like the fifth or sixth round and get Kyler, and still build a pretty good team around them. I mean, some stacks you can kind of get that are like, another one that I like the DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson stack, although the way the season ended last year, it went from let Russ cook to let Russ hit the drive-through. So that one makes me a little more nervous. The other one that is great, but is really hard to put together, is probably the Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes stack, but you have to reach for Mahomes a little bit earlier than I would like to. So with all that being said, I'm gonna hold on to my Nuke Kyler Murray stack as my preferred fantasy football stack.
Why do you think Nuke is going so late? Like, you said you think he's going late second round?
I think. Maybe it's just the one that I did, the mock I did recently. But I feel like, and I don't know why he's falling. I really don't. Maybe it's because people are anticipating, that the Cardinals are going to go out and draft somebody. I don't feel like AJ Green is scaring people enough to make me fall or something. I think we're just seeing a shuffling around. I think maybe part of it is that Travis Kelce has sort of jumped up higher into the first round as well. So I think maybe that has something to do with it. But I can't figure, because sign me up for 160 targets, sign me up for 100 catches, and 6 to 8 touchdowns. Like, I'm totally here for it. So if I'm on the board and Nuke's still there in the mid to late second round, like, I'll take that all day.
Yeah, excellent. Bonnie, who's yours?
I like Ryan Tannehill and AJ Brown. And reason being is I don't like to pay up that much for quarterbacks. I'd rather wait and go ahead and load up on the stud wide receivers and running backs. And AJ Brown, you can get about around the second round. So I usually prefer to go running back, depending, of course, where you're drafting from. I usually like to take a running back first round. Then I can snag AJ Brown in the second round. Then meanwhile, I can get some stud wide receivers and running backs until you can get about the fifth round, sixth round. And last year, depending on your league scoring system, he was only about 8 points behind the top scoring quarterback last year. So you can easily make up for 80 points instead of running backs and wide receivers. And also, Corey Davis gone now too, so he should, he could see more targets this year. AJ Brown.
True that. So I'm guessing that you do not believe in the zero running back strategy, then.
No, Bonnie. I like to have at least 2 running backs going out of the first 3 rounds. So and preferably I would like to have 3 running backs out of the first 5.
Where do you sit on that, Marcus?
I don't know that I go that running back heavy, but I do feel like this year you have to get at least 1 in the first 2 rounds. I can't imagine going through the first 2 rounds and not getting a running back, because it is so top heavy at that position that it thins out really, really quick. So if somehow you decide, and I did that, I just, this is why you do mock drafts, people, right? I did a mock draft where I went, Travis Kelce first, and then I think I went a wide receiver, and I got some decent running backs, but I didn't love any of them. So I feel like, I think unless something spectacular happens, you've got to make sure after the first 2 rounds you get at least one running back. 2 is probably not a bad idea because there's so much depth at wide receiver. You can wait until the 4th, 5th round and still get yourself a quality wide receiver. But if you're waiting until the 4th or 5th round to get a running back, chances are you're just not going to like what you got. And then you really are going to be hoping on depth. Then you're going to be really kind of reaching for depth, which might hurt you in some other positions. So, I won't say zero RB is dead, but I just don't think this is a year to do it.
And speaking of this being the year, excellent segue. Who do you think are the first 3 people to go in the draft, in this year's draft?
In the NFL draft?
Yeah.
I think it's, Trevor Lawrence. It'd be a newsflash if Trevor Lawrence doesn't go number 1 to the Jaguars.
I think it would be awesome.
I think so. I mean, that would be earth shattering if something other than that happened. I think with Sam Darnold getting traded today to the Carolina Panthers, I think that kind of cements Zach Wilson at the number 2 spot. 3, I think, is where the argument sort of starts. I keep hearing this Mac Jones rumor to the 49ers. I'm not buying it. And I'm not just saying. So, side note, my best friend, I grew up in the Bay Area. My best friend, we're both 49er fans at heart. And he is despondent over the idea that the Niners won't get Zach Wilson. He doesn't really love Justin Fields. I'm totally down with Justin Fields. I think that'd be great. But if Mac Jones gets drafted at the 3rd spot by the 49ers, then I really might have to have a wellness check, send the Paps over for a wellness check for him. I don't think it's going to be Mac Jones. I think it's going to be Justin Fields. If not Fields, probably Trey Lance. So as of this moment, here we are. What is April 5th, 8:30 p.m. Pacific time. I'm going to say that it's going to go Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Justin Fields as your top 3 off the board.
Okay. And Bonnie, what do you say?
Exact same thing. I have the exact same thing down. I was going to ask you, Marcus, the knock on Fields. Wasn't that come from one report of somebody said that he was lazy about his training or something? I mean, how do you feel about that? I think that was a terrible remark.
It is. I mean, it's kind of the old trope, right? About the, does he care enough? Does he work hard enough? Does he have the football IQ? And I think that was sort of where I think it was Dan Orlovsky at ESPN who kind of put that out there, and he caught hell for it. And it just I think where it strikes a nerve is because we've heard this argument so many times with so many different quarterbacks in the past, generally black quarterbacks. And I think that was sort of why everybody sort of came at it, because you get the whole idea of Mac Jones being, the hard worker and the quote unquote coach's son and, first guy in, last guy out sort of thing. But somehow Justin Fields is the opposite. Meanwhile, Fields was great. I mean, he was great all year long. He took it to Clemson, right? I mean, playing hurt and went out there and stuck it to Clemson, playing some great football. I think there are valid criticisms of Justin Fields. I mean, I do think that sometimes he does kind of, whether it's secondary reads or that sort of thing, maybe he's a little bit slower to process, but I don't think that has anything to do with work ethic or football IQ. It's a skills thing. And I think it's a thing that can be coached. I think it's a thing that, in the right offense, you put it with Kyle Shanahan, who can kind of move the pocket a little bit and get wide receivers open. I think it's a thing that you can sort of kind of work around until he gets better at it. So, I don't think that any of these guys are above criticism, but I just felt like that particular brand of criticism just felt sort of lazy and tired and well worn, and we've kind of been there before.
Yeah, it's like the cold calling the kettle black, or what saying is, lazy analysis there. But wouldn't you rather have, like, in fantasy, when I always like Fields more because of his running ability,
which I think honestly is another reason. I really don't understand the Mac Jones rumor, other than I know John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan were at the Alabama Pro Day at the same time that Ohio State was doing their Pro Day, and so that led people to speculate that maybe the Niners are interested. They made the trade up. I don't think you trade up for Mac Jones. I think, the Niners would have been at 12. I think Jones would have been available potentially at 12. I don't think you give away what they gave away to go get a guy that you could have just had fall into your lap. So I do think Fields, that mobility for fantasy, you're right, is absolutely great. That's something that Jones lacks. I think that's something you get out of the top three guys with Lawrence, Wilson, and Fields. It's something that you get in droves with Trey Lance as well, another guy who can kind of make plays with his legs there. It's not something you get with Jones, and I don't know if he's necessarily the fit. So I know for us fantasy types, we're looking for different things than maybe what NFL coaches are looking for. And for that reason, I'm with you, Bonnie. I think Fields for me is a greater fantasy option than Mac Jones.
JGood09, who said it's all good to see you tonight, says his biggest knock on Fields was watching him struggle versus Northwestern.
That feels like a shot at Northwestern. That's what that feels like. That feels like some Northwestern shade is what that feels like.
And it probably was. Okay, we're going to move on and talk about, well, you just did mention it, the Sam Darnold news that went down today with the Jets giving away Sam Darnold. It's definite that they're going to pick a quarterback. I mean, I guess it's definite they're going to pick. Who knows what they're going to do? But it seems like they should pick a quarterback. So what do you think this does for Teddy Bridgewater?
I think I think Teddy should probably,
be packing his bag.
I wouldn't sign a long-term lease in Charlotte. I know that. I think I'm probably moving on somewhere. I've heard Denver potentially is a landing spot for him. I will admit that I don't think I can be completely objective when it comes to Sam Darnold. I definitely tend to root for USC guys. I think with Darnold, though, I tend to be a little more, I don't know the word, protective, maybe. I think because he just landed in such a bad situation. I think it's a combination of I like Sam Darnold. I want him to do well. I also just hated the situation because Adam Gase just seems to ruin so many things that he touches. And so, like, for that reason that I can't completely be – like, I understand, right? I understand he has not played good football so far in his career. I get it. I also see all the guys who got away from Adam Gase and started to play well, right? I kind of had my own little list of what I call the Adam Gase expats, right? Where you had, like, Kenyon Drake and Ryan Tannehill and who else? There's some other guys, Robbie Anderson. I mean, just a whole bunch of guys who got out of that situation and went somewhere else and started playing well. And so I'm sort of hoping the same thing for Darnold. So I want him to do well in Carolina. But I will also admit, like, if he goes to Carolina and things don't work out well, then at that point it's on Sam, and I can't really defend him anymore. But, like, as of this moment, like, I am sort of keeping my hopes up, and I will admit that I'm probably looking at this through cardinal and gold colored glasses, and I don't know that I can be completely rational about this. But I do say Teddy's not going to be in Carolina much longer.
I just wrote an article about my favorite buy low target, and one of them was Robbie Anderson. And I believe the Sam Darnold is going to benefit him even more, make him more valuable on that team. Since they played together, and probably a little bit better than Teddy Bridgewater at this point in his career. So we'll have to see. I'm hoping for Sam Darnold as well.
So both of you think that Sam Darnold is a better quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater? Is that what I'm hearing?
At this moment,
yeah, I think.
As of this, I think he has maybe more talent. I think he's more athletic than Teddy Bridgewater. But as of this moment, I don't think we have seen anything to suggest that Sam Darnold is a better quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater. See, I can be objective. I can be objective with Sam Darnold. I don't think we've seen anything that would suggest that Sam has played better than Teddy. I will say this, though. I do like the Robbie Anderson connection, right? The two of them getting back together again. I will also say that Robbie Anderson was better last year than I thought. When the Panthers signed him, I was like, well, they're signing a deep threat and pitting him with a quarterback that doesn't throw deep. But for whatever reason, Teddy was able to make it work. So that does give me some hope that maybe that he can do even bigger and better things. If Matt Rule and Joe Brady can figure out how to turn Darnold around, then I think that does mean really good things for Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore.
Well, they made him a lower ADOT compiler basically last year. Did you know he had the 10th most targets of all wide receivers last season?
I don't think I knew that. No.
Well, I know this because I just wrote an article.
So, Bonnie,
Yeah.
where's this article that you just wrote?
It's on Fantasy Pros. It's my top Philo Dynasty targets pre-draft.
All right, we got that. Everyone get that. And then let's just move to free agency and the pre-draft. Free agency was a pre-draft. Anyway, let's just move to free agency. Bonnie, what team won free agency?
Well, I kind of think I like what the Bucks and the 49ers did because they chose to largely trust in what they already have rather than go on this big external shopping spree. The Bucks are running it back with Godwin, Gronk, Leonard Fournette. They also re-signed Ndamukong Suh, Shaq Barrett, Levante David. I mean, why not? They just won the Super Bowl, of course, so I think that was great. The 49ers reached the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Were just decimated by injuries last season. They did lose their edge rusher, Nick Bosa, but they just re-signed a bunch of key free agents like Trent Williams, cornerback Jason Verrett, Emmanuel Mosley, Quan Williams, and they added center Alex Mack. So I like that they just basically stayed in house.
Who do you have, Marcus?
I think for real football, I like what the Browns did. For them to be kind of a team already on the come up, they've got good pieces, and they went out and they really added to what's already a pretty good defense. They went out and added some pieces to their secondary, getting John Johnson, for instance, from the Rams. I think those are some really, really big moves because they're sort of already there. They're on the way. I wouldn't be surprised. They should very much challenge in the division, potentially to win the division. They should be in the playoffs again. So I like what they did for fantasy football. I'm going to go with the football team, Washington football team. I thought some really good stuff. Because for fantasy, we really only care about offense. Like we don't really care about what you did defensively. And I think Washington, they put together kind of a nice offense there, right? They go out to get Curtis Samuel, they get Ryan Fitzpatrick, to add them to Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson and Logan Thomas. Dare I say, I might enjoy watching the Washington football team in 2021. It's been a long time since you said that about that franchise, but I think this is where we are now.
I think I agree with. I would enjoy watching the Washington football team. Who do you think lost fantasy or free agency, Marcus?
I'm just going to say the Texans because I feel like that's the answer to everything right now.
Bad, just the Texans.
Look, I understand that right now there are a lot of question marks around Deshaun Watson. I mean, first, obviously, from a football standpoint, the fact that he has said he doesn't really want to be there anymore, that he's not happy with the organization. Then obviously from the non-football standpoint, you've got these civil lawsuits that are piling up against him and all the accusations from these women that are piling up around him. So that just from a real life standpoint, obviously is a big question. They go out, they get Tyrod Taylor, they add Ryan Finley. I mean, those are stop gaps at best. And I love Tyrod, but I'm also not going to pretend that Tyrod's going to be the savior, that takes you to the promised land in the event that Deshaun Watson is not available. They go out and they stockpile all these running backs. It's so like on our podcast a couple of weeks ago, we were like, hey, Mark Ingram, not going to be in Baltimore. Like, I wonder how long he's going to have to wait to get signed. And like literally the words were barely out of our mouths, and the Texans are like, we'll take him. It's like they signed him to go with David Johnson, and then they bring in Lindsey. I just don't know what they're doing. They added a bunch of wide receivers who are kind of like meh at best. I mean, like I just don't know what's happening there. And they've got that Jack Easterby, who has kind of created his own little weird cult of personality down there in Houston. That dude won the Game of Thrones, right? And he has taken over in Houston, and I don't really know what they're doing, but it doesn't seem great. So I just, like I said, I think when you're talking about who lost in this situation, I think the answer universally is the Texans. And then right behind them are the Raiders, because the Raiders, I want the Raiders to do well. I want Raider fans to be happy. I have a lot of friends who are Raider fans. I'm just baffled as to what some of their moves are. Like, why do you want John Ross, or not John Ross? Why do you want who do they sign? They signed some wide receivers that I think are just kind of mad. I know they got John Brown, who I kind of like, but yeah, I don't really know what Mike Mayock is doing there. I'm confused, but still, the Texans.
Bonnie, who do you think lost?
I had the Texans too. I mean, I don't understand what they're doing there. It's almost like they know, or they're anticipating that they're not going to have Deshaun next year, and are kind of just in a rebuild mode or something. I don't know. The Patriots spent a lot of money, but they really didn't get much in the way of firepower either, aside from tight end Hunter Henry. And but then they turned around and got Jonnu Smith. So I don't know how that's going to work. Does that help Hunter Henry? Is that going to hurt Hunter Henry? Who else have they got? They got Nelson Aguilar. I mean, they're still going to have to get another wide receiver in the draft. Excuse me. So yeah, they spend a lot of money, but I don't see any real upgrades there.
I think I read something today where the Patriots have spent the most guaranteed money in free agency than any team in the NFL in like the last 10 years. So they went out and spent a lot. And the Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, I kind of actually like that kind of pairing because they did better when they did have two good tight ends. But yeah, the rest of it, I'm not really sure. Although I do like the signing of Cam.
They also had like two freak of nature tight ends too. Like that's the thing. Everybody's going back to like, hey, it worked with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez. Like you're talking about, like, Gronk is arguably, he's one of the top 3 tight ends to ever play the game. Maybe the best tight end to ever play the game, right? Like Aaron Hernandez was an absolute athletic freak. Let's ignore what happened.
Yeah.
On the field, dude was an athletic freak, right? And like, I like Hunter Henry. I like Jonnu Smith. Neither one of those dudes is Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, right? So, like, it's the Patriots in that first day of free agency, they were like me, like when I first got on like MySpace, right? Like if somebody's like, hey, you gotta go join MySpace. Like I joined MySpace, and like literally like every person that I think I had met for like 10 minutes, I'm like friending you, and then like I realized that like maybe like this wasn't great, right? Like maybe there's a reason I haven't talked to some of you people since I graduated, right? Like maybe I should have rushed out and just added everybody. Maybe I should have waited and like had some quality follows. And I felt like that was the Patriots at first day of free agency. They're like, yep, we'll take you, we'll take you, we'll take you. And then they sat back and everybody's like, oh, yeah, but now you have now you have 3 left shoes. Like, what are you gonna do with that? Like, it's just, I don't know. It seemed great at the time, and I think in retrospect, it was like maybe they could have been a little bit more choosy. I don't know.
It's almost like trading for 3 Jags instead of just getting the 1-star player and going, hey, I got Russell Gage and I got Odom and when I could, I had Devontae Adams for all 3,
I'll give you these. I'll give you these 2 dimes for this quarter because 2's more than 1.
Right.
Oh, Bill. Let's really quick. And I think I asked this last week too, because I was last year's draft, NFL draft. I loved it. I loved the idea of, I guess, going into the people's homes or whatever. The personal touch of the draft. How did you guys feel about that? Like, I thought the first day of the draft when Tennessee Titans coach, when his kids dressed as the characters from Mr. Freeze, Mr. Freeze Zone. What is that?
Batman. Was it Batman Forever?
No. Was it? No. It was where Samuel Jackson played Mr. Free Zone. What was the voice of Mr. Free Zone? It was cartoon.
Oh, see, now I have to look this up again. Sorry, continue.
I thought that was great. I thought Bill Belichick having his dog sit at the computer while he was away drafting was great. I hope that they do that the same way. What were your guys' feelings on the way they did the draft? Do you want them to do it that way, or would you rather go back to the traditional guys walking across the stage and hugging the commissioner draft thing?
I will say I didn't know what to expect, and I was sort of skeptical about how the whole thing was going to work. It definitely played off better than I would have thought. I do sort of like it at home just because I feel like for the guys getting drafted, it's a huge moment, right? This is a huge moment in your life, and why not share that with your family, right? Like it is literally a once in a lifetime thing, you know? And so I think it's kind of cool that a lot of these guys get to share that moment with the people that are closest to them, with the people that help them get to this point. So in that respect, I definitely liked it. You know, like I think, you know, we did get some good moments. We got the grateful thing with his kids dressed up weird like that, I know that Bill Belichick's dog kind of stole the show for a while. But I think more than anything, it was just seeing the players have that moment with their families, and it's cool when they get to come on stage and hug Roger Goodell, and I know that's like kind of a big deal, and now they get walk-up music and that sort of thing. But I don't know that any of it will ever match just being able to, like, you know, hug your mom, hug your dad, that sort of thing.
Snatch your food away from your girlfriend.
Yeah, you know.
Who was that?
We got the whole Russell, you know, we got Russell Wilson, like with his then girlfriend before she became a wife. Anyway, but like, yeah, like, you know, like those sort of moments. Like I think we got, you know, I think there's an old picture of Brett Favre, like in some cut off jean shorts or something like that, wearing a baseball cap. Like those are kind of cool, you know. Like I think Joe Thomas, when he got drafted, like he went fishing with his dad. Like he wasn't even anywhere near TV. Like he was like on a boat and got a phone call, like, "Hey, we're drafting you to the Browns." He's like, "Cool." You know, and he went back to fishing. Like that kind of stuff's fun.
What do you think about Vaughn?
It is kind of nice to see the personal aspect of it, you know. I think when you see a player's journey and you get to know them and their families, and you have more of a personal, I don't know, where you watching them on Sunday, it's like you want to root for them some more and stuff like that. And when you see that kind of thing, where they came from and how they got to where they are. So, but no, I was referencing though when the one player, his girlfriend was on his phone and he snatched it away from him I forget who that was. It was so funny.
CeeDee Lamb. It was CeeDee Lamb. Is when Dallas called him.
Was it CeeDee Lamb? Okay, yeah. Stuff like that. Yeah, but I remember the whole Joe Thomas thing too. I think he said he was just so worried about it and everything. They decided he was just gonna go fishing with his father. That was kind of a cool story. Did you say Joe Thomas? You did that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Joe Thomas, I think I think he was fishing. He was like out on a boat fishing with his dad when he got drafted.
Yeah.
I was trying to find the movie. I can't find it. Sorry.
I don't know about the players, though. I don't. They feel like they're missing out on something by not doing the whole walk across the stage and talk to Dion and that whole. I don't know. They feel like they're missing out on something.
By the way, The Incredibles. That's the movie you're
The
thinking.
Incredibles.
Yes.
Why couldn't I find it in Samuel Jackson's IMDb? That is what it was. Yes, it was awesome. Okay, speaking of this works out perfectly. Speaking of superheroes, and The Incredibles was a movie of superheroes. Who is your favorite superhero, Bonnie, and why?
Well, I'd probably have to say Catwoman. You know, she was the ultimate femme fatale.
Which Catwoman? Which one? Like Michelle Pfeiffer?
Oh, it had
Holly Berry Catwoman?
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah,
No, it had to be Michelle Pfeiffer. She was the ultimate femme fatale.
Okay.
And, I just thought, Catwoman, part hero, part villain. Batman's on again, off again, love interest. You know, she prowled the streets at night, protecting those who needed her. Stole from the wealthy to help Gotham's downtrodden. Probably, I guess I just find her the most relatable, or maybe I just want to be here.
Well, I mean, who doesn't want to be Michelle Pfeiffer? Surely. Yeah, there are worse things. Okay, Marcus, who's your favorite superhero and why?
It's Spider-Man for me.
Spider-Man.
Well, now I'm a Miles Morales guy mostly.
And
yeah, I'm a Miles Morales guy now, but I think both he and Peter Parker sort of had sort of the same thing. Like I look at it as you look at Superman, right? Clark Kent was literally an alien. He was not a human being. He came from another planet. Batman, Iron Man, like Bruce Wayne and Tony Stark were trust fund kids. Wonder Woman, Diana was great, but she literally was a superhuman. I mean, she was, akin to being a god. Peter Parker, Miles Morales, like they were just trying to figure out how to get through school. They were trying to make the girl next door fall in love with him. Peter Parker had a boss who was a jerk. Like he had real people problems, it was sort of like the rest of us do. And then he just, they both just so happened to get bit by radioactive spiders and end up with superpowers and that sort of thing. But it's like so many superheroes, even in their regular everyday lives, tend to be the very best of us. Like even Captain America, Steve Rogers, who started out as this 98-pound weakling till he got the super serum, even as the skinny weakling Steve Rogers, he had a morality and an altruism about him that I don't think we all wish we had. We all wish we possessed, but in reality we didn't. We don't. And I think there's just something relatable about having these powers. And still trying to always figure out how to do the right thing, but knowing that, it's just hard and that you probably are going to screw up sometimes. And for that reason, I have always sort of tended to gravitate towards Spider-Man a little more.
So I always have this opinion that everyone has a superpower, and by that, I mean, like bartenders can read people well. That's a superpower because not everyone can do that. What would you consider your superpower, Mr. Grant?
Ooh, wow. I have a superpower of being able to, if I need something that involves two hands while driving, my superpower is to make sure I catch every green light.
Nice.
Or if I'm in a hurry and need to get somewhere, then my superpower is to catch every red light. So I don't know if this is not a useful power at all. These are not useful, but that's the thing with superpowers, right? Like we all think that they're all useful. And sometimes I think a superpower is just like it's a thing that happens to you, but it might not necessarily be helpful all the time, right? So I think I was sort of cursed to have one of these unhelpful type superpowers.
Bonnie, what's your superpower?
I don't know. Maybe finding really good tight ends before they break out.
There you go.
Before everybody else is on them. Let's see, Jimmy Graham, his rookie year. He went undrafted in a couple of my leagues, but I went in and just plucked right off of the waiver wire because we have open waiver wires. Let's see, then there was Darren Waller, but
nice.
2 years ago. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm a little bit of a tight end whisperer, finder.
So who are you looking at this season then?
Cole Kmet.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I like Cole Kmet. I do like Cole Kmet this year.
I think he could have a breakout season.
Nice.
I agree. Big fan of Kmet this year.
All right. So your superhero, Spider-Man, Marcus, who would he be if he was playing in a fantasy league? Who would be his number one pick?
It's got to be Superman. He's kind of a cheat code, right? Like he's super fast, he's super strong, he can do literally everything. He has X-ray vision, so he can he can read everybody else's play sheet. He's a cheat code. If you don't take Superman first, you're doing the whole thing wrong.
Bonnie, who would Catwoman pick first?
Real life players or a superhero play?
Whatever. Whoever she would pick first.
Catwoman would probably take CMC first overall. You can do everything. That's sort of what you say there, Marcus.
I'm not sure, because CMC's like the boy next door, and Catwoman's kind of a villain. I think she would pick a bad boy. Don't you think she picked a bad boy first? Seems she's like goody two shoes.
So who would that be?
Well, could I take them? Who would it be?
Oh, DJ.
Oh, maybe Jonathan Taylor. I really love Jonathan. I don't know if he's a bad boy, but if you're going to be a little, you're thinking out of the box a little. I think he's somebody who could end up number one this year.
Yeah, this is true. She just has to stay away from those goody two shoe boys because it never works out for her when she does it. You know what I'm saying? And speaking of which, your personal fantasy draft strategy, Bonnie, is what? When you go into a draft?
Going into draft, I guess basically what I was saying earlier, I like to have at least 2 running backs out of the first 3 rounds, and at least 3 running backs out of the first 5, and generally with a wide receiver and quarterback by the 5th round. Because I like to wait on quarterback, but I feel like if you wait too long, then there really is a big drop off. You need a lot of points at the position. And like I said, something like AJ Brown and Ryan Tannehill. You know, take AJ Brown in the 2nd, Ryan Tannehill in 5th. It'll be a nice little stack there. And then hopefully you picked up a stud running back in rounds 1 and 3.
Okay. Marcus, what's your fantasy draft strategy?
I tend to, I guess the Bruce Lee strategy, be like water. I just kind of tend to see just kind of keep an eye on what's happening, right? Like, I do think it's important to make sure you get a running back early. But I also think it's like, you sort of want to pay attention to what's happening, right? Like I've always said, the wait on a quarterback strategy is great if everybody else is waiting on a quarterback. If you're waiting on a quarterback and everybody snatches theirs up early, then suddenly you are kind of scrambling. If you are trying to sit back and wait on running backs and everybody snatches them up, you're going to be kind of hurting a little bit. So I think it's important to kind of pay attention to what is going on. Have an idea, have a basic plan of what you're going to do, but be sort of flexible because, you never really know. I always say that's why I think it's fun for people who are maybe hardcore fantasy players to go out and draft with casual players, right? People who don't necessarily read all the articles and listen to the podcast and stay up on this because it's a whole new world, right? When all of a sudden 3 quarterbacks are gone in like the 2nd round, right? Like it will throw you for a loop, right? But it will also kind of train you to be ready. What's the quote? Like the world's greatest swordsman has nothing to fear from the world's 2nd greatest swordsman, because that person knows the moves, right? You can kind of sort of anticipate what they're going to do. The person you should fear is the person who has no training, who's just wildly swinging these because you don't know what's going to happen. And so I think that's sort of why draft with casuals. Like if you consider yourself a intermediate to advanced player, draft with beginners, because things are going to happen that you might not be ready for, and so it'll help you kind of get prepared for that sort of thing.
Do you have a favorite type of fantasy, like a PPR, IDP, 2 quarterback?
I am known for being anti PPR. I think I can abide half-point PPR. I prefer quarter-point PPR. You'll never be able to convince me that in a league that is now geared toward passing games, where you can't touch quarterbacks, you can barely touch wide receivers, and the high percentage passes are becoming a thing now. Like in that world, catching a football shouldn't be rewarded the same as running 10 yards with a football. It just shouldn't. You just can't convince me of that. I know I'm kind of in the minority. I'm kind of down with more traditional standard leagues, right? Like I don't mind having kickers in a league. Like if I could do a half-point standard kicker league, something like that, I'd add maybe another flex. But I'm pretty traditional when it comes to that. And I know people are going to be like, roll their eyes, I'm sure, out there. But yeah, it's just kind of how I roll.
Eric Johnson said, preach.
Attaboy.
Bonnie, do you have a favorite fantasy type league?
I actually like playing in dynasty leagues because I think if it rewards people that draft well. And I don't know. I just like being able to make trades and try to scout the rookies like you're a real GM and stuff like that. And just to clarify something, if I'm drafting in a rookie draft, then I'm going to go with BPA, best player available, because even if I don't need a quarterback, say if I'm in a super flex league, I'm going to take Lawrence at 101. Because I'm going to turn around and trade him to the person who really needs them and come back with a nice little goodie stash out of that. So, do you play Dynasty, Marcus?
I do. I'm in a couple dynasty leagues. I'm in a couple super flex leagues. It's weird. Like I feel like I'm not doing dynasty leagues right. I say that because like when I read a lot of dynasty articles and talk to people who do dynasty, and it's almost like it's like dynasty players who are hardcore. It's like they hate holding on to players, right? It's like they acquire them with the intent of immediately flipping them for something else. And I'm like, but you just got Christian McCaffrey. Why are you trying to get rid of him already? So I'm apparently not doing dynasty right, because like it just seems like the people who are way into it are like they're like day traders, right? It's like Wall Street bets and everything is to the moon. Like I can't quite follow it. So like I play in some leagues and I do okay, but I feel like I'm not doing it like everybody else is doing it.
I know what you're talking about. We have a guy in one of my dynasty leagues. All he does is flip players, and he'll see what other teams need, and he'll say, "Okay, I don't need a running back, but I'll take Antonio Gibson from you, and I'll turn him around and flip him over here because I need a wide receiver, and I'll come back with Devontae Adams or whatever." He just constantly does that, and he's just really good at it. But I prefer, if I've got some quality players on my team, I'll just hold on to them until it's getting to where they're going to start dropping off, and then you need to turn them.
So we're gonna. This is my favorite question of this week. Anyway, name your top 3 Denzel Washington movies. Bonnie.
Oh, please don't ask me. I am so not.
What?
I'm not a big movie goer. I'm not up on pop culture, well versed on pop culture. I haven't even seen Remember the Titans, and that's something I need to go and I need to watch that. Maybe in the middle of the summer while nothing's going on.
I've never seen it.
I'll go ahead and download.
And I love Denzel. I don't watch sports movies. I don't. Sports movies are designed to make you cry. I don't watch movies that are designed to make me cry.
I don't watch a ton of sports movies, but for a different reason. It's because I feel like I judge the sports action. I'm like, that just looks bad.
And it's just bad.
Right. It's like I don't watch a ton of sports movies for that reason, because I feel like the action just doesn't look, it doesn't look like watching an actual game. So
sure, that's true too. But yeah. All right, Marcus, top 3 Denzel movies.
So I'm glad you like gave me this ahead of time, because otherwise I would have been stuck. So I went number 3. Wait, let me make sure I got my list here. All right, number 3, I went Crimson Tide, because who doesn't love a good submarine movie, right? And I know everybody like thinks Hunt for Red October, like this is the submarine movie that wasn't, but he was great in that. Number 2 was Training Day, because why not? And number 1 was Malcolm X, because it just was incredible to this day. So yeah, that was I thought about maybe putting Flight in there, but those were my 3.
Eric Has Fallen, which is a great movie and a great soundtrack. Training Day, which I can't watch a bad Denzel. I can't watch Denzel be a bad guy. So Training Day would never be in my repertoire.
I thought about that. I really thought long and hard about that too.
It's like he's Denzel. He can't be a bad guy. Bonnie, do you not watch movies at all? What are your top 3 movies? Just movies.
Gosh, the last movie I went to see was oh gosh, what was it? The last movie I probably went to see in the movie theater was probably the Elton John movie. What was that called? I forget. I can't even think of what it's called. Rocket Man.
Rocket Man, yeah.
So I just don't go very often. I don't know if it's because of just don't have time or just don't feel like paying $20 to go see a movie when I can watch, wait till it comes up, It probably off the top of my head, I'm trying to think. I loved Forrest Gump, Rain Man. I love. Let me see. Let me think.
I've never seen Forrest Gump.
Really?
Really? Oh my gosh, you need to see Forrest Gump.
Fun. You should definitely watch Forrest Gump. It's fun. I mean, like I feel like TNT shows it at least once a month.
I'm not and I hate to say this, but I'm not a big Tom Hanks fan. I don't particularly.
So I miss the old funny Tom Hanks. Like
Yes.
I like he's very good. Like I'm not gonna knock his work, but I miss the funny. Like my favorite Tom Hanks movie is The Burbs. It's not a great film by any stretch of the imagination, but it's fun and he's goofy and he's silly, and I miss that.
Oh my god, that is
What
kind
about what was it called? Toys? Was that the one where
Toy Story?
like he was? No. Tom Hanks, where he was an adult in a kid's body.
Oh, Big.
Was it Big?
Big, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Did you see Big?
saw Big. Philadelphia is my favorite Tom Hanks movie, and that's only because Denzel's in it. So, I mean, I'm just kind of.
I'm gonna throw this out there. That movie's not funny at all.
No, it's not known for its humor at all. Okay, we're going to go to the rant section, the 2-point conversion section, where you can rant and talk about anything you want for a few minutes, or as long as you want. Actually, I don't really care. Bonnie, I'm going to let you start because I have a feeling that your rant is going to be epic. Yeah.
I don't know. Did we talk about? We talked about the Raiders being losers in free agency, but did we talk about Josh Jacobs and how Drake signing has just killed his fantasy value? And why do the Raiders keep saying they're going to get him more involved in the passing game, but they keep bringing in people like Jalen Rashad and Booker and Lynn Bowden and now Drake. So bye-bye, Mr. Jacobs. It was nice knowing you. I mean, come on.
It's John Gruden too. I don't. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, it's not my rant. And Marcus, go ahead. Your turn.
My rant's gonna be non-football. So now that we're hopefully getting closer to the end of this whole pandemic madness, I keep seeing all these things about how like people are saying that like, oh, movie theaters are gonna be dead, like nobody's gonna go back to the movie theaters, and I'm like, that seems like trash to me. Like I don't understand that at all. Like first off, I sat the other night I stayed up late and I watched Godzilla versus Kong because why not? It's a giant lizard fighting a giant monkey. Like, really, what more do you need for a movie? But it made me realize that one, like, seeing that in a theater would have been amazing, right? To be in a dark theater on a giant screen with the sound and the popcorn and everything would have been great. And I know that obviously, movies have been coming out more direct to video and on streaming services and that sort of thing. And I'm sure for the studios, it's been great. You can get your work out there and get it seen by people. But I will always think that you just are missing something in that communal experience of watching a movie together. And I think we've seen that over the last little bit, right? And like, admittedly, I'm a super nerd, and so like I watched the 4-hour Zack Snyder cut of Justice League.
It was awesome.
I watched it like a 4-part miniseries because I was not going to sit and watch a 4-hour movie in one sitting. And so, but whatever, it was great. I enjoyed it, but it would have been so much nicer to see that in a theater with a lot of people and have sort of that communal reaction. I will never forget going to see The Force Awakens when it came out. And when, spoiler alert, Han Solo dies. The movie's been out for several years. If you haven't seen it, that's all you. But when he died, there was a little kid in the theater who was like 10 years old and who lost his mind. Started screaming like, he died, and like his dad had to take him out. But here's the thing: Nobody in that theater was upset about it because inside we all felt the same way that kid did. It just was not socially acceptable for a 38-year-old man to scream that in a movie theater. I think movie theaters will survive. I think movie theaters will thrive when we are done because we still want that. I can't think of a Netflix original movie that I've seen that I'm like, I got to go see that again. But if I go see a movie in a theater, I am more likely to come home and be like, I want to see that again in my own home and maybe reevaluate it. And I think that we want movie theaters. I think that we need movie theaters. And I think that everybody who says that movie theaters will never go back to their former glory is full of crap because we want it, we love it, we miss it. I can't wait to get back and see a movie in the theater again.
Do you know?
I just
on that.
I just read a news. Sorry, Glenn.
Go ahead.
I just know to say to Marcus, I just read a report that Kong versus was it Godzilla?
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't even know what to call it. But anyway, I heard that movie because it just came out in the theaters that they were packed. So
sure they are.
I don't think it's good that.
I haven't gotten the shot yet. Yeah. I'm not ready to go back to a movie theater, but once I do, like, I can't wait. I can't. I mean, the last movie I saw in the theater was 1917. It was date night. I don't know that, a World War I epic is maybe the best Valentine's Day movie, but, so what? It's what happened. Yes. But, like, I want to go. I was sad that I didn't get to see Tenet in the theaters, Like, I'm going to watch it at home. It's just not going to be the same. I'm sad that I didn't get to see, Godzilla versus Kong in a theater. But I can't wait. I think it's going to be great. I think we're going to realize how much we missed it once we get back to that again regularly.
I think that's going to apply to actually a lot of things.
A lot of things. You're right.
That we don't. But like you're saying, I hate to give them any kind of kudos. I have out here in Denver, Xfinity is my cable provider, and they didn't have Disney, but I had Disney on my phone. So when Hamilton came out, I had to watch Hamilton on my phone like this, but it's got Disney on the television, and like you were saying, it was so much. I couldn't wait, even though I've seen Hamilton like 20 times on my phone, to watch it on a bigger screen was like, I was so excited to watch it again just because the screen was bigger. So you're talking about the movies for the communal value. The bigger screen. I can't wait to see things in the surround sound on a big screen where I can just like sing along to every lyric because I know them now on Hamilton or anything else that comes out. And I agree with you on that part. So I want to thank you both so much for being here. Marcus, I want to thank you and your son for letting you be on, for being here. Do you want to let people know, everyone knows where they can find you and how to find you, but do you want to refresh them on that?
Sure. Make sure the authorities don't come snatch me up first.
But, I'm in Denver right now. I'm afraid to go outside. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I mean, basically the easiest way to find me is on Twitter at MarcusG, MarcasG. But we're doing the podcast still once a week. You can find that, Stitcher, iTunes, wherever you download things for your ear holes, you can find it there. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel now, youtube.com/NFL Fantasy Football. So we're putting stuff up there fairly regularly as well. And keep an eye out, set your DVRs. I don't know when exactly. I know we will be doing an NFL Fantasy Live special sometime after the draft. I don't believe there's a date, but I'll just say, just set your DVR, and one of these days, sometime in early May, it may magically just appear there. So be ready for that.
And if you haven't seen the free agency special, you should go back and see that.
Well, it was a free agency special too. I'm sure that's floating around somewhere on the interwebs. If not, go look it up.
Thank you. And Bonnie, for you, my dear.
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Fantasy Queen Bee. You can also find me at Fantasy Pros and also at forfantasystateqc.com.
And I want to thank you.
And thank you all so much
for being here. It was a pleasure. It was more than a pleasure. You both are very enlightening and very entertaining. You can find me next week, not next week, but the week after next, right here at an earlier time, at our normal time. at 2-point conversion. I also, tomorrow, will be on a roundtable with the Gridirons talking free agency. So look for me there. And again, thank you both for being here. You are remarkable people, both of you. And I enjoyed every second of it. Bless both of you.
Thanks for having me on.
Congratulations
Thank you.
to both.
Marcus.
Yes, thank you very much. Good night, everyone. Thanks for hanging around on the East Coast and the West Coast. Oh, Marcus, did you guys have an earthquake? Are you okay? I'm sorry, I forgot to ask.
Yeah, we did. It hit. So there was like a first, because we get them kind of in bunches. There was one that hit. It's kind of a big jolt at about 4:30 this morning, and then about 15 minutes later, kind of a longer rumbling one. Apparently, the epicenter was about 4 or 5 miles from where I live. I think the epicenter actually was right either next to or across the street from SoFi Stadium, where the Rams and Chargers play. So I have not driven by. I assume the stadium's still standing. But yeah, it woke us up at like 4:30, 4:45 in the morning. Kind of shook us up a little bit. I'm from California, so we're sort of used to earthquakes, but it's something about being woken up by one in the middle of the night that will kind of take you off your game a little bit. But everything's good. We're all good. Everything's fine. Everybody's healthy. No damage. We're all good.
All right. Glad to hear it. Sorry, I forgot to ask about that. But I'm glad that you guys are okay. And I hope never to experience an earthquake in Denver or anywhere else. But on that note, good night, everyone. Thank you once again for being here. We will see you next time. Bye.